Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Friday. It is Faith Friday, and I did not do one of these last week. I don't think so. I'm sorry. I try and do these live. They're not as fun when they're recorded for me. So
Bless
I'm
you.
sorry. Selfishly, I like to do them live. And I have a guest today, and this is my first time, you guys, doing this. So I am like, let me know in the comments if you like this, if you want me to bring more guests on. I am actually going to let Ashley introduce herself, but if you guys can give me like 2 seconds to share this link out to the public, that would be great. Just give me 1 second, please.
Absolutely. And I can even get started while you do that, if that
Oh,
helps.
okay. Yes, please. Ashley is amazing and wonderful, and I've known Ashley since high school, you guys. And so I'm gonna let you hear her story today. She's a wonderful sister in Christ, and she's also had a very, very well-rounded experience in health and fitness. So we're going to talk about all that today. I share this link. I'll let you, Ashley, go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself and your business and what you do and all of that.
Absolutely. So, guys, for real, it's a struggle going on live, sending all the things. Like you almost need a third person managing the links, the sending. Um, it's not as easy as pushing one button. They make it seem that easy, but it's not. Anyways, but so my name is Ashley Smith. And yes, I used to be a macro nutrition coach for a company that I was once a customer of, loved. I was so deep into the fitness and nutrition industry. I guess you could say I was like drinking the Kool-Aid, but very intensely. So my story is swinging from one side all the way to the other. And now this is where you're catching me now, is kind of like settling in the middle. And probably where the Lord would have taken me had I listened the first time around. But the Lord is faithful. He brings us back around. He did like just because we miss it the first 1 through 10 times doesn't mean that we're going to miss it on the 11th try. So I like to say that like the Lord, like I am just living out the Lord's faithfulness and bringing me back. But I will say, um, obviously, like sovereignty and free will, and how he is using those experiences to like redeem and restore not just me but everybody that I work with. So I'm just in awe. So that's where I'm at. But right now I work for the HA Society, and so we specifically work with women who have lost their cycle due to underfueling, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and helping them really work through body image, mindset, um, recreating a healthy relationship with fitness, food, body image, so that they can actually live a healthy life, not just this is what health looks like. So that's where Joe and I cross many different ways. And
Yes.
like, yeah. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. You'll have plenty of time right now to go through your story. So today we're talking about surrender and rest, and of course, because this is a fitness and health channel, we are talking about it through the lens of health and fitness and how when is it appropriate to surrender and when is it appropriate to rest, and how, because we know that health and fitness can become all consuming, and whether it's someone who's over consuming food or under consuming food, um, they're all related, and where does surrender and rest fit into that? So first, Ashley, I'm just going to have you talk about in general your health and fitness and body image journey. Like, how did you get started? What were you thinking when you were, at your peak, engulfment in fitness? What was your mindset like, and that journey?
Yeah, so I've always been active. Like I wrestled and played high school, and played softball in high school. Then I went and played college softball. And so meaning that like I've been playing tournament ball since I was like 10. Like there's not a time that I haven't been outside like pushing the limits or inside the gym pushing the limits, right? But now as I even say that, not saying that I don't think that it was healthy then, but it definitely changed when I started to be really concerned about my body image. So meaning, like, I think if I think back the first time where I'm like, that's probably crossed the line into like no longer about just competing, but competing and looking a certain way was when I was in college. And granted, I wasn't eating right. Like I was out drinking, eating like in the middle of the night, like just some fast food somewhere, waking up, eating at the cafeteria. Not, I mean, I went from a home where my mom, I used to think her meals were boring, but now I'm like, well, dang, look at those balanced meals.
Yes.
Like vegetables every day, a protein, carb, and veggie, right? Like that's how I grew up. And then when I went into college, I was like, screw it, Doritos, cookies, just like and like there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's the only thing you're eating, let's just be real.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I started drinking, doing all that, gaining weight. And then that's when I started to like starting this relationship with over exercising to make up for what I was eating. And we all know that that actually doesn't ever end well, nor does that actually even work that way. That's just not how the body works. Right. So I started that. And that's when I really started the like, I would have like 2 to 3 hour practices and then I'd go do a spin class for like an hour,
Mhm.
right? All these things. And so that's kind of where I started to get wonky. And then when I graduated college, I was still had like that athlete mindset. So I got into CrossFit, loved it, loved the community. My eating really didn't take off, or dieting actually didn't really quite take off then, kind of. But it was really when, gosh, I think we were married for like 2 years, so probably like when I was 24, um, I discovered macros and because I wanted to start competing in Olympic lifting. So I started that, and so naturally you do have to fit into weight classes, and so, like, I'm not saying that that's a horrible thing, like, no, I don't wanna I shouldn't be competing against someone who's, like, 95 pounds, like, that's just not fair. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm not anti-weight classes or anything like that. I get it, I get the point, but there's always this drive to be the strongest in the lightest weight class. And then that's when I started macros. Again, those I learned so much about nutrition, but again, I took it so far that I wanted to look a certain way that it actually wasn't about performance anymore. It was that I wanted to look strong instead of actually being strong. And then I got addicted to losing weight. I was like, oh my gosh, it's working. And I could see it. And I just get lighter and lighter and lighter. And I got more defined and more defined and more defined. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, you know? And then, I mean, to the point where, y'all, I was down to like 35 fats. Like I was training 2 to 3 hours on 35 grams of fat. I was probably so low on carbs. I was probably 140, 130 with like refeed. Go ahead.
For reference, guys, like I've never had a client under 50 grams of fat
Yeah,
ever.
and no woman should ever really be below 50. So, I'm sitting here rocking
Yeah.
months at 35. And really and truly, that's probably when my hormonal problems started. But the body's really resilient. And so I actually didn't lose my cycle until probably about 3 years into it. And then I didn't know anything about hormonal health. I just kind of saw it as like an inconvenience and I didn't want kids. So I was like, no one seems worried about it. My doctors don't seem worried about it. So I lost my cycle for like 5 years and everything was fine until nothing was fine. AKA meaning that like I was just rapidly gaining weight because my estrogen was so low. So most people don't know that like once your estrogen has reached the bottom and has been there for so long, your body it just starts going out of whack. Why? Because estrogen's related to metabolism, specifically insulin and carbs and all these things that like when those things go haywire, like you actually have even less control over your body
Mhm.
than what you already do have. Like we live in this false sense of control over our body,
Yeah.
which is like we get away with it because like we can like manipulate a few things, right? But then whenever you've completely depleted your body, it just does whatever it needs to do to survive. And it's like, anyway, so that's when I just started gaining this weight and I couldn't stop it. So I cut my calories even lower. Anyways, long story short, found out that I had hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is just you don't have enough fuel coming in, so your body shuts off your reproductive system, which also shuts off your hormones. And for women, that's everything from bone, brain, mood, libido, everything in between, skin. Um, so then I started on this journey trying to find my cycle, but not wanting to cut dieting or exercise out. Sorry. And then finally, I just got so fed up with all the doctors. I mean, it's a whole long story. And then I was like, fine, I'm gonna do the thing that I would never let myself do. I'm gonna gain the weight to be healthy. And boom, my cycle came back 4 weeks later.
Yep.
4 weeks later.
And your story is so
Sorry.
relatable to so many athletes too, because I mean, one of the things I do now outside of coaching health and fitness is I coach athletes. And one of the things that we talk about now all the time is food and how do
Mhm.
you actually fuel your body properly, because most athletes are never taught how to eat nutritiously. They're never taught how to have actually a balanced diet. And in addition to, like, yeah, we have a tradition in track and field where you go to in and out after invitationals. That's also okay. So
Mhm.
teaching athletes that the two of those things are not mutually exclusive, and that you can fuel your body with proper nutrition, eat enough. For most women, it's eating enough. Um,
Mhm.
and also being able to enjoy, the team dinners. I intentionally bring my kids, nerds and skittles, mini skittles, or they just are appalled that I'm like, because you need to understand that there's no all bad or all good, but athletes are never taught that. And I feel like once we leave the safety of an athletic bubble and the safety of like having a traditional workout plan, and there's no really need to like control your food because you're working out so much, then it's like we will go to extremes. Number one, because it's super comfortable as athletes. Like we love that. We love that push. We love that competition. It's the same reason why I got into competing. It's the
Oh, yeah.
same reason why you got, and then we realize, oh, no one's ever taught us how to actually live healthy lifestyles.
Yeah, and I think also, a like, a coach can't be everything to everyone, right? So, I'm firmly like, a coaches do not need to be doctors, right?
Right.
Like, they got
No.
enough on their plate. But I think even the coaches are unaware of, like, women perform their best when all their hormones are
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just that simple, well, duh. I mean, so think about, like, you would never say to a male athlete, "Oh, your testosterone's low. That's fine. You're good. Keep going."
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the equivalent of, because even with HA, your testosterone will drop. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And so it's just like, that is the equivalent. And so I don't think athletes, if okay, so think about how competitive we are. Had you told me, Ashley, the key to your recovery, strength, and performance is maintaining healthy hormones, I would have been like, "What is that?" And I need to get on that.
Yep.
Right? Like, I would have been a nerd about it because I was always chasing performance. Like, I
Hmm.
didn't leave anything on the table, and because I was definitely that athlete who I mean, like, I definitely went somewhere, but I wasn't the best, but I could outwork anybody. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Meaning that, like, I wasn't going to quit. So for
Right.
me, if I knew that there was something that was gonna help me with recovery and or performance, that was something I couldn't leave on the table. That's something that I had to maximize because it just, some people are way more gifted, but what I'm gifted in is, like, like, you will quit before I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this transcends athletics. I mean, even for my clients, sometimes they'll get upset because I won't push their bodies to where they think they should be pushed. I'm like, if you don't have a cycle, we're stopping all dieting until it comes back. If you
Yeah.
don't have, if you are not sleeping well hormonally,
Mhm.
that's a hormonal issue. We're not exercising the way that you want to, because the key to just life in general and living a healthy lifestyle in general is actually hormonal health, especially for women. And people don't, that's not something that is generally discussed, period. I'm lucky to have had a doctor she's crazy. And I love her. I love her because she explained all of this to me when I was going through my own issues. And so, yeah, I think it's important that everybody understands that hormonal health is above all, and if you do not have your hormonal health, then you actually don't truly have health.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I want to move on to, I know you mentioned, you were like, oh, I feel so lean, I feel so good. And we've kind of talked offline about your body image and how that became part of your identity. And
Yeah.
the compliments and the hey, you look so good. And I have two questions. At what point did you realize that you were very attached to your body image? And then what did you realize, because we're talking about surrender, what did you realize you had to give up in order to recover, in order to get back to a healthy, normal weight and like hormonal balance?
Yeah. So I will definitely say that I felt like the Lord was consistently dropping things like, "Hey, Ashley," and I was just like, because I had gotten and like I was talking with somebody about this because I had gotten so good at ignoring hunger, which is a basic internal cue, and opted for what someone else told me to do or what society told me to do. I don't think we understand because we're spirit, soul, and body how that translate to ignoring the promptings of like the Holy Spirit as well, because you get to ignoring everything that like comes up like from like your soul and from like like the Holy Spirit, that like you just start numbing these things. We numb hunger cues. So don't tell me that we can't numb like the promptings of like the Lord speaking to us, right?
There's research on this. Yes, there's
Oh,
research on the fact that people who cannot, who numb, even like the fact that you have to go to the bathroom.
mhm.
Like we will block that off. Oh, so I can get some work done. Oh, I'll block off homework. They actually can't. Their gut instincts are off, so they're actually in more danger because
Yes.
they don't are not connected to their gut. So if somebody's walking down the street and is not safe, they won't feel it
Yeah,
because
because
they've blocked off. Yes.
yes, because like yes, so again, spirit, soul, and body. Like you do it in one and you're gonna do it in all of it, right?
Yep.
Because we think we're so superior that like we can selectively choose just to ignore hunger and not ignore the Holy Spirit.
Mhm. No.
Maybe if it's for like a spiritual fast, but that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other
Yeah.
topic. That's a whole other day. And even, anyways, but um, so there was lots of promptings, and actually, what I feel like the Lord really started, and I could see a few things that was skirting around the Lord was one of them. The Lord was like, because like I used to post all these pictures of like my body in like bikinis because that's what you do as in like a nutrition coach. And
Mhm.
like, the Lord was like, "Do you think you're causing other people to stumble, whether it's men or women?"
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
started blocking all men from my page, right? As if
Oh
I
my
was like
goodness.
I was like, "Lord, this is only for my clients to motivate them, so Imma block all men from my page." When
Listen.
realistically, the Lord was like and think about and now I know the Lord only asks us questions that He knows the answers to, but wants us
Correct.
to be, to have a revelation about.
No, this is so interesting because I actually had this. One of the girls that I follow said, if the pictures that you post on Instagram cannot be projected on your church screen, like you should not be posting them. And I mean, I have pictures of myself on the beach in Cabo and I don't really care because the mindset now is different. But there
Yeah.
there was another woman that I used to follow who
No, no, no,
she did
mine was,
bikini
like,
competitions.
full on progress pics,
Yeah.
things yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a real question. Is like you and she said this, the woman that I follow, she goes, I realized that I was causing other people's husbands to stumble.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she's like, she was married and she says, and I didn't want like I was thinking, would I want my husband to see this on my page?
Yeah.
On like on his page,
Yeah.
And that's yeah. Yep.
And you know what the other thing was that that was around the same time that Blake was like, "Hey, I really feel led to be a chaplain." And I'm like, "Would I want the pastor's wife to be posting pictures like this?" And back then, the Lord was still doing a great work in me of like, what is strong, feminine, like biblical females look like? Because I had come from a completely different version of what that was. And it was
Mhm.
and you and I have talked about that, like embracing the femininity, just not always operating in masculinity. And then at the time, anyways, so it was just more of like, actually, no, I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to do all these other different ways. And then the next was, Ashley, do you think your shorts are a little short? Like, like, how short is short? And I'm like, well, they're longer than this chick's, so I'm okay. And he's like, but that wasn't the question that he asked. The reason why I bring this up is because this is something that I'm not sitting here telling anybody that their shorts need to be a certain length,
Mm-hmm.
but this is something that the
Mm-hmm.
Lord was directly talking to me about because he knew that it was tied into my identity because
Yes.
my body composition had became my identity. So there was
Correct.
these compromises that I was making um morally for me that I was making to feed this idol of my identity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the simple fact that I was fighting the Lord about just wearing longer shorts. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I was fighting
It's
the
like, why your
Lord
shorts need to be that high? Because I want
because
everyone to
I
see
want
my
you to see my
legs.
quad. Yeah, I want you to see my quad, and
Correct.
I've been working on this hamstring, and I want you to see this
Yes.
hamstring.
Correct.
You
It's
see what I
not
mean?
because the shorts are cute.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not.
No, no. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of when I knew things were getting wrapped up in my identity. Now, so the Lord is interesting because I've been able to be a part of a lot of people's healing journeys and just see the Lord work. And he always does it in different timelines, right? Because everyone's different. Like, like what's the verse where he says like he uses a cart to roll over the grain, into another one he like, uses a different instrument. And he's talking about our hearts, right? Like he's never going to do the same thing that he did to my heart to your heart to get the same result because he is a good father and he knows exactly the promptings and nudgings. He knew I had to do this on my own for 5 years before I'd be like, oh, I'm never not listening to the Lord about this or anything ever again.
Isn't that amazing?
It is seared into my brain.
I love it. I love it. I love it because that's how I feel like you it's almost like I'm never turning back. So my lately I've been getting this like vision of Jonah and the whale. And I'm like, I'm not interested in being in anybody's whale ever again. Like never like I will be someone asked me something about why do I do what and I said, listen, I've learned that if I'm not listening to the Holy Spirit, I will be in somebody's will, and that's what we're not doing over here because I've already been there. I'm not
Oh,
interested in being spit back out and having to clean myself off or get cleaned off. I'm not. I've
mhm.
done it. We're good.
You know,
Thank you.
what I say all the time is I am not interested in that 40-year journey to the promised land. Like I'm
Correct.
gonna listen, you know what I mean? Like absolutely will not take the long way around. So that's why I'm just like no. To the point of like it's like one of those things where like it hurt, but it's not like this emotional shame and guilt. It's the oh yeah. So like we're like actually never doing that again. And so therefore I will actually not compromise ever again because I know where my flesh took me.
Yep. And I'll be obedient to you because number
Mhm.
one, it's always worked out. And if I would have just listened to you the first time, 4 years ago, I would not have gone through, and so it's that, but I think also the spiritual maturity that you go through when you
Oh yeah.
detach yourself from your body. And actually, I think it's so important to highlight that I think people get caught up in the fact that this is like for people who are lean or people who have just lost
Mhm.
their period, but it's like actually, because a lot of the clients that I work with are on the other end of the spectrum. You guys will hear me say this 1,000 times. It's all the same
Oh, 100.
thing in a different way. So it's detaching from your body and detaching from the food in a way that you didn't think you could before.
Yeah.
And that process is a pruning and sanctification process. And so let's talk about, besides the shorts
Oh,
and the bikini pics on Instagram, which I think a lot of Christian women who were in that sphere have kind of, it's interesting to, we're all kind of saying the same thing. What else did you have to surrender? Maybe something that wasn't so physical that you had to surrender in order to recover.
So my personality, I had to like there's so much that I feel like I will likely do a disjustice to what the Lord because I feel like that's a well he's still teaching me out of.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Well,
thing that
forever,
he's
yeah.
still like revealing. And that so again, healing is very interesting to where it's like there's some things that I openly surrender to him, and then there are some things that he took from me just because he's God. You know what I
And
mean?
because he can, and thank
Because he
God.
and to the point where, like, I don't even realize that he took it until I'm walking out my healing, and I'm like, "Oh, well, dang." You you took that too. So that's why I said that there's things that he's still revealing
Hmm.
that like in my obedience to surrendering, he took additional things, right? So some of
Hmm.
the things was I had to surrender what health my true motives for health, such as I called it health, but what I really wanted was just a six pack. Um
Correct.
I called it working hard, but I had to surrender the fact that like I was trying to earn validation through my body and through being successful at this client, I mean at this company. So like basically hustling for my worth physically, mentally, like work and body and soul type of thing, right? Um, I had to surrender the random comments from strangers that so I say all the time, like I knew my family didn't care and I knew my friends didn't care. So who was I really doing this for?
Hmm.
But the random comments from strangers who were like, "Oh, you look great," and I don't even know their name.
Hmm.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So for like the random so again, like that's just validation. So really getting validation from my body. I think I had to give up the simple fact that, you know, like I say this to my clients a lot of me being a vessel for God's glory and God's goodness rather than my body being what was glorified.
Hmm. That's good.
You
That's
know what I mean?
good because it's really like you're saying, look at me, don't look at God.
Oh,
And we're
yeah.
pretending, you know what I mean? It's like, and anytime you start saying, look at me, God's like, and we're going to tumble that down because I get all the glory at all times.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because really and truly, it's so interesting now that and again, I don't think that this means that like you have to not have a six pack to show God's glory. Like, no, I'm not saying that. But
No.
what was interesting was like the more this isn't gonna come across as right, as the more that I was less showy about my body, like now, like I don't have like the banging six pack
Yeah.
or like the bicep that I absolutely love, right? I'm not saying that it's not coming, but what I'm saying that like that's just not where I'm at right now. And it's interesting that the Lord's getting more glory now because
Hmm.
the attention isn't about my hamstring.
Right. And the Bible says a woman who loves the Lord is to be praised. Charm is deceitful. Beauty
Mm,
is deceitful. Not that you can't, you like, I think that everybody's beautiful. So that's not, it doesn't even work. But do you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, I think
it's deceitful in the way.
trusting in your beauty is deceitful. You know?
Yes. And I think people see that
Mhm.
if the Lord is calling someone to you as a client, for whatever reason, they're not actually looking at your body. They're
Mhm.
being called because of the Christ
Oh,
that is shining through you. So that no one's coming to me because I look good. And thank God, because my beauty could fade at any day. My body could go haywire any day. So thank God that it's him through me that people are drawn to me, not my body. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
You know what the Lord just reminded me of is I think in that whole entire time, I was trying to create the favor, and now I'm just walking in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
Does
Mm,
that make sense? That,
mm-hmm. Yes.
like I was trying to manufacture this favor that people would be drawn to in order to be drawn to him, right? Because
Yes.
at the time I still was a Christian, right? So
Yeah.
this is even a bigger thing of like just because someone's a Christian, one doesn't make them a great example. Two, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that they're not dealing with that the Lord isn't about to send them through a whole bunch of like refinement. But
Yeah.
I can definitely see that I was hustling for the favor, but now I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking in his favor, meaning that I don't have a six pack. I don't have all these things that I thought people, the favor, right? The favor
Mm-hmm.
of men. And now I have like more clients. I'm doing deeper work and I'm actually doing the work that he's called me to do, right?
And
So
the deep soul healing work, and actually, I mean, you mentioned femininity, and I think one of the things that, because that was something that actually came through my doctor, because she's crazy, was this idea of like rest and surrender is a
oh
feminine
yeah.
concept, and not that men do not rest either, but true femininity, it's number one, it's actually really really good for our hormones. So if you
Mhm.
actually want to heal your hormones, figure out how to really ask the
Harness
Lord to show you how to be a feminine woman, because the amount of peace and rest that you find in him, directly correlates to how you, interact with other people. I forgot where I was going with that now, but
Yeah, no,
anyway, just
that's a great no, that's a great topic because I say all the time, how are you, especially in my line of work, how are you supposed to do the most feminine thing and operate in massive masculinity? Like, meaning that, like, how are you supposed to get a period and then be able to get pregnant when, like, you're 120% masculine energy all the time? Like, this is a feminine thing. Like, you have to
yes,
surrender. You have to
yes,
surrender all this control, all this
yes,
time, all these check boxes. I mean I did it too. Like, I'm gonna come into healing. I'm gonna have this appointment. I'm gonna get this figured out. I'm gonna take this supplement.
mhm,
I'm gonna do this, and then by this date, I'm gonna be done.
mhm.
That is
When what you really
masculine.
need to do, what you really need to do is sit down and
And
sleep.
surrender the time,
Yes,
surrender what
yes,
healing looked like, surrendered what a healed body looked like. Lord, don't even get me like,
yes,
because again, we're like, when I'm healed, we subconsciously have this vision of what we look like when we're
mhm,
healed. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but be mindful that if like you're constantly bucking the healing process because it doesn't line up with what that looks like.
yep, yep,
So I had to surrender what a healed body looked like, what a healthy
mhm,
body looked like, because I was white knuckling, holding on to, I want a healed body that looks like my old body so that I can kind of do the same things and get this, but
yes,
but
because I
like,
still wanna be her.
because like I still want this, like, yeah, that's, and so I had to surrender. I had to surrender that my worth was not in my body, that
Yeah,
because I really had to go out on the line and be like, all right, Lord, like, and again, this was the Lord revealed all this to me afterwards. I was not in a mindset that I
no,
could handle any of this.
no, no.
Any of this. Like,
I would you say, because for me, I was probably, if I had gone to a psychologist, I'd be clinically depressed during the time. I mean, clinically depressed. Because during, as you're mentioning, like during healing, you can't even think, oh, thank you. Like, I mean, you can, and you're like, okay, Lord, I know what you're doing. I know that you're doing, but you can't even actually see the scope of what he's doing until you come out on the other side and you have like clear 2020 vision. I don't know
oh,
about you, but I was like clinically depressed probably.
it's probably a good thing I didn't see a doctor because I probably would have been like submitted to some degree
Mhm.
because I was trying to biohack, and that's a whole other thing that you and I can get on topic about one time. Because biohacking to the point of really you're just trying to control every symptom that comes from your body. You should just rest and leave it alone.
I literally have this conversation with my sister every week where we talk about so much how it's like, yeah, my solution for everything is sleeping
It's
because
actually, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, not only does science back that up, but I do wanna talk about, let's get back to that because I do wanna talk about biblically what the Lord has revealed to me about rest because I
yeah,
know that's gonna tie in, but it was one of those things of I was I was in the biggest spiritual battle of my life that I kid you not, had I seen a conventional doctor, they would have loaded me up on meds.
yes.
Because I was just, like, waging this I mean, to the point where I almost walked away from my faith because I remember saying, "Lord, I know who you are. I know you're a healer, and you're choosing not to heal me." And I looked at my husband, and I was like, "I don't know if I wanna do this anymore." And he was like, "Do what?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Believe in the Lord." Well, it's not that I don't believe in the Lord because I do believe, like, I know who he is. I just don't wanna be around him. I don't wanna be near him, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I feel so abandoned by him that I can't even imagine. Anyway, so between my hormones, between and then I try to biohack my way to healing through hormone replacement therapy. I was crying all the time. Girl, I'm pretty sure I threw myself on the couch, like belly first, so you know that you don't fit. Like you just hit and then like slide
Mhm.
off while crying, talking to my husband about how I didn't want to get on this trip and go to this. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. Well, because the Lord was taking me back to the same place that
I'm
I went.
so glad you
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Anyway,
mentioned hormone replacement therapy because I've actually had a few clients who have begged me to, and I'm like, I'm not your doctor, but here's what I'm not going to do. I am not condoning hormone replacement therapy for you because you are trying to circumvent the work that
Mhm.
the Lord is about to do for you right now if you don't just gain this weight.
Well, that too, and just a massive warning to anybody who is trying to do that in order to get their period back or hormones back. If you don't do that on a well-running metabolism, you are like, so you're like, that's what I, so like my metabolism was tanked, and
Yeah.
no doctor believed me that I was having these adverse side effects. They just
Mhm,
wouldn't believe me.
mhm.
They're like, well, that's not really normal. And literally, PubMed, I mean, I
Yeah.
was all over. I had to get in the depths of forums of people saying,
Mhm,
"Hey, are you having this side effect with progesterone? Are you having this side effect of
mhm, mhm,
estrogen?"
mhm.
Anyways, and so I finally talked to this one functional nutritionist, and she goes, "Absolutely, I would never put you on this because this, and this, and I think that you'd have this reaction." I'm like, "Well, that was my life. Where were you like
Mhm,
3 years ago?" And
mhm.
basically, it's whenever your thyroid is so depleted from dieting and just lack of fuel intake, throwing hormones on a system that has not turned it on itself. So basically, you're putting on fire on a system that's down regulated. You're going to have massive side effects. Um, Anyways, so I'd say that I was chemically depressed because as soon as I stopped taking them, like within a week, I was back to normal. But I was
Mm.
I was weepy. I would have the best day, and my stepmom would be like, "How was your day?" And I'd be like, "It was good. I ate blah blah blah." Cry. I was just crying, like
Sorry.
that,
I'm
like
gonna plug
all.
my computer and I'm listening.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So hormone. I don't. I and trust me, these were bioidentical. These were the best of the best. I was getting
Well, and
testing.
just the concept of like, I'm not going to, and I know there are instances where this is not appropriate, but what I've learned is that your body can heal itself, and the last option you want is for you to need hormones that you may have to be on for the rest of your life when your body can actually just do it itself if
Yes.
you just eat. And I think it speaks to the fact that we are so tied to our body that we're not really willing to surrender that image. So instead we'd rather, I would argue, harm ourselves even more to maintain, because we're so our identity is so wrapped up in our bodies that we would even just say, no, God, I don't trust that you made this body to do what we do. I don't trust the research that you put out that says that our body can do what it do. But no, instead, God, because my body is so important to me, and because the way I look is so important to me, and because what people think about me is so important to me, I'm gonna put some hormones on top of it, and I'm gonna will myself into healing when what I really need is a deep soul healing that is going to transform my life.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's like you are actually doing it in the name of health, but what you're doing is preserving an idol. You're
Correct.
preserving an idol. Like you just don't want the idol to be messed with. You're like, we can go this far, but here. Um,
I
yeah.
have one. I have
Yes.
one question, because so I actually have I found this song recently, because as I was doing, I've been like living a healthy lifestyle now. I say truly healthy, not fit, healthy lifestyle for probably 3 or 4 years. But as you've mentioned, there are other things that have come up in terms of like rest and surrender and all that. And there's this song that I listened to today again, that I've been listening to for a while, and it made me think of this conversation we're having today. And one of the lyrics is, maybe I'm addicted to the worry, maybe I'm addicted to the pain, but I've heard it say that the gospel is rest. And I actually sent it to one of my clients this morning because we have talked about how we are actually addicted to suffering, whatever, in a way where it's like, how
Mm.
this relates to my body was that for me, it was like I was actually addicted to like needing to keep my weight down. Like I was addicted to that process of being,
Control.
yeah, but also like the struggle, like, oh, my weight went up 3 pounds and I don't have my abs anymore. Let me push it back down. Like that actual process of losing weight was the addiction, and keeping the
Yeah.
weight down, which my clients who are, very much overweight, they can, they're like, wait, you understand that? I'm like, yes, because it doesn't matter if you're 300 pounds overweight or,
Mhm.
50 pounds underweight. It's all the same addiction. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah. So that ties in beautifully what I was going to say about rest. It's one of the things of no matter which way you slice it, human nature is addicted to striving, and we will, and that'll manifest
Yeah.
in every aspect of our life, whether it's striving for work, whether it's striving to to stay busy,
Yep.
striving to lose weight and keep it down. We so kind of going back to think about God, our God, the true God, is the only God that actually says rest. It
Mm-hmm.
says that in His Word, it said that the Sabbath was not made for Him; it was made for us. And who are we to
Mm-hmm.
be like, cool, God, that's a great suggestion, but like, I don't think I'm going to take you up on that, right? Like that's ballsy. I don't know if I'd go before a holy God and say that, but my actions were.
Yep. And we're saying, no, God, I got it. I got it.
I know it's best for my body. I know you made this and I'm your creation, but I'm taking over now and I don't think I need a rest day. I actually don't think I need to get alone with you. Like, yeah, no, my soul's good, but you
Yep.
know when your soul's tired, you know when it's weary. And the more you ignore it, the more you get used to an exhausted soul and you get addicted to it because it's the only way that you can actually keep going. So that's a whole other
Yes.
thing. But think about even like a lot of people think like I love the Old Testament. I'm an Old Testament like junkie. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love seeing like the parallels, the forthtelling of it. Like it just gets me caught up. But think about of all the festivals, the Lord said, honor me, like celebrate me by like eating and being in fellowship and rest
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and honor me with rest. So this is a holy God saying, you know what? I actually love you so much, and I'm gonna tie this all together with you, like honoring me. You're gonna like be rested. I mean, think about like even so, like, and I know this gets kind of out there, but it's there where like it talks about how like every 7 years it was like the land would reset, it would go back to the original owners.
Yes.
Like all like the hired servants were set free, people's debt was forgiven after 7 years, and then like there was this jubilee year where like the land was supposed to rest.
Yep.
The land was supposed to rest. What I don't maybe it was a year or like 7 years. It's wild. But he said, I will provide for you. You will have so much. You will have an abundance, but you have to rest first, and I will provide this abundance. And I bring that up because Israel never got to that.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
never got to that Jubilee year, right? Because they were like, screw it, I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
myself. And
Yeah.
so for us, I think that that's what we compromise. Like we compromise the rest and the abundance that he promises us because we think we know better and that we don't need rest, right? And the reason why we fight it is because rest is submission.
And I'm not submitting to nobody because I don't like that word. I'm like, I give up. I don't like, isn't it so amazing? Just that's so good because submission, and we're taught to be defiant. We're taught to be, strong headed. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there's a time and a place for that. But oh man, that piece about
I
submission and
am, yeah, I am a strong-headed woman who knows how to submit to a holy God, and that is why
Mhm,
I am strong. I mean, like you and I have talked about
correct.
this. Like, what does it look like
Yeah.
to redefine what biblical strength looks like? And someone had
Yeah.
said the other day, which that like silence actually requires a large
Oh,
amount of confidence, and confidence
yeah.
comes from the Lord, right? To where like I actually don't have to respond to that, and it's not because
Correct.
I'm weak, and it's not because oh I'm submitted. It's because I'm actually highly confident that I don't waste my words.
Oh yeah, I have a whole video on like how
Yeah.
women who are constantly talking and defending themselves are actually not confident, and how that actually is a sign of fear.
Oh,
And
so
it's like it's a real, and actually I think that's my latest video, because I'm actually coming out with a course on confidence for Christian women because it's something that I think has been misrepresented even in the pulpit. Like this is what
oh,
confidence is like. It's this loud, like, actually
mhm.
hyper masculine kind of view of, but anyway, that's here nor there. But what I wanted to say was, I don't think, if you would have told me in while I was, in the desert, that
Yes.
God would have given me way more
Mm,
than I had before if I just submitted and surrendered to Him, I think I would have been like, you're lying.
Oh,
because the way that my life is now, the amount that my well is full and overflowing, I could have never imagined. And in fact, I actually had a conversation. I didn't have a conversation with God. I talked and he listened. And I said something like, okay, God, like if I'm going to do this, like I knew that like if I'm going to be like if I'm going to really surrender, like I'm not the kind of person to be quiet. So like you better have my back kind of thing. Like I was dead serious. You better have my back because I am not a quiet person when it comes to you. I'm not a quiet person when it comes to salvation. Like
mhm.
that. So do not leave me out here in the wilderness if I start proclaiming the truth, if I start telling the reality. Like you do not do that to me. And it
Yeah.
was like me bargaining, and I know God was like, okay, little girl, like whatever. But it's still like because
Okay.
we know that they're like I think our hearts know when you're a believer, that you've got to make that cut. You've got to make that, you just got to make that decision. And there's a fear, but God, I mean, He's so faithful to show us that, hey, on the other side of this is abundance and not even monetarily, just abundance in life. Like your life is going to be so much more full when you just stop, give up these little carnal things that do not mean anything. And
Yeah.
I'll give you way more than you could ever imagine.
So three things, and I hope I remember all of it because this is
Okay.
good. So abundance. So I want to. So I've been like stewing on this because the Lord has dropped this in my spirit. But like abundance of confidence in Him, people are jockeying for that. They're paying for that. They're selling themselves for that. Like abundance of peace. Have you like whenever you meet a peaceful person or just like this inner peace, not that they're meek, although meekness is bomb, so that's a whole other thing, but like
Yeah.
not that they're weak but like whenever you meet someone who flows in peace and wisdom, you're like, oh, like
I want that.
you come in contact and you're like, oh, I feel the favor.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so abundance and peace. I think when people pass up abundance of wisdom and abundance of peace, they actually don't know what it is that they're passing up, right? Because whenever you're flowing in peace, wisdom, and the confidence of like the Lord, like you're literally like I just feel like that's where like the Lord is constantly parting the seas. Doesn't mean that there's not someone chasing you. It doesn't mean that there's not a desert in front of you,
Listen.
but you're just parting the seas and you're flowing through it, right? So there's that. So abundance, Lord, I receive. Two, oh my gosh, so I forgot. So maybe those other two weren't good, but like
No, but you, in order to receive that, you have to rest. In order
okay.
to actually have
Oh, yes.
that
Lord.
gift.
Okay, sorry. Yes. So you were talking about the desert and Hosea so like this is where it comes to like repentance. Like how do you surrender? You start with repentance and it literally says, I
Yes.
will allure you into the desert and I will speak tenderly to you. I will
Yeah.
speak tenderly to you in this desert. And he's so faithful to do that. And then you were talking about, Lord, I if I'm quiet and and going back to the Exodus, because that's my well, right? The Exodus where he said, be quiet and I will fight for you. And I was just like, no, okay.
Yep.
All you need
He.
to do, be quiet and I will fight for you. Right. And I was just like,
Yes.
okay,
Yep.
I'll work on
I'll work on that. Yep.
being quiet, but that takes submission and that takes rest. Like you can there's a difference between waiting and there's a difference between rest in the waiting.
Yeah.
Like
There's two different. Waiting is like,
busyness, anxiousness,
yeah.
not
Rest
like
is like, I'm not worried. Yeah. I'm not worried. Isn't it? It's so amazing how much that we have and I think we live in a hustle harder society. And
Mhm.
I have, I've said this multiple times. Like I am not into hard work. I'm allergic to stupid hard work. I will say that time and time again. Because I just don't think, and I also don't think this is going to be controversial. I don't think that biblically that's how God designed women to work. Period. I don't even think it aligns with our hormones to work that way. And
Yeah.
so, so I'm all about work that is in line with the way that your body naturally flows. So I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
about that. And if we would just listen to that, we would be far better off. We are like running up on 10 minutes, or 10 minutes left. So I want to know, because this is something that I talked about in my last video. we've talked about the desert. We've talked about, there's a time where you're like, I don't even know, like, do I want to live? Like, how am I going to live in this new body where I don't even recognize myself? And then you start to come out of it and you're like, okay. And I'll say to my viewers who are struggling with weight loss because you are trying to have a healthy mindset about food, this would be akin to you are changing your habits and now people are starting to fall off and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this thing anymore. I don't want to drink it excessively anymore, but that was my identity. And I don't want to be, everybody's people pleaser because I'm afraid that if I'm not, people pleasing, people won't like me. It's that gap. So you're coming out of healing and now you're like, wait, who am I outside of fitness? So I want to know, how did you deal with that gap? Give our viewers some tips, because I know for me, I had to rediscover parts of myself that were shut down from childhood that were truly who I was, that I was trying to hide with fitness.
Ooh, that's so good. So I think for me, it took, and I think you mentioned this. No, I know that you mentioned this, that we expect God to exchange. So yes, God will exchange our old heart for a new heart. He will renew our mind. But we think, okay, as soon as I give this up, it's going to be installed. And there was a lot of literally just sitting in this new body, in this new habit, in this new mindset, and resting, because you know what I mean? And like, I know that sounds crazy, but like, what does it look like to wait upon the Lord to receive? Oh, that's it. I had to learn to receive the truths that he had already spoken about me that I had traded for. Meaning that I had to,
Oh,
you know what I mean? That, like, I had to learn to receive that I am worthy,
amen.
independent of other people's praises. That I am
Amen.
valid, independent of people's positions that they put me in. Like, I had to do like some, uh, I know it's basics, but it is advanced, but rock bottom
Yeah.
stuff. Like, he was like, no, like, we have to address this if I'm going to build. And now that I see that the Lord, like, is, business and healing, like, you're like, oh, we have to get this done right, because you can't pour from a dirty well. Like, you can't keep
hmm
pouring.
I call it inner work, girl. You got to get that inner work done, because the lies that are just deep in there that he has to
So
go in and clean out.
So really and truly, so what does this look like practically? So like, I talk about this all the time. I went through a biblical counseling course and it wrecked me, which it should, before you go like counseling others. And it's not even actually counseling. It's actually learning to be quiet and hear the Holy Spirit and ask the questions that he wants to ask, not what you think. That's a whole other thing. But it was allowing the Lord to bubble something up. And instead of burying it through exercise and our food, and that could go any way, or distraction, allowing myself to process with the Lord and allow him to heal what it is that he bubbled up. That is the
Yeah.
only way I think that you get comfortable in a new body and a new habit, and like the direction that the Lord is taking you in, is because everything that he bubbles up, he wants to heal.
Right. And we are
Whether
so afraid of that.
whether it's, I'm gonna go there, whether it's through like deliverance and letting go of some things, or some inner healing where, he goes back into these memories with you and actually shows you a different point of view, into where you have to choose, am I going to believe what the Lord has spoken over me, or I'm going to believe what that situation or that person spoke over me.
Yep. And I
Right.
think that's the root of all of this. Whenever we get down to body image, and
Mhm.
whenever we get down to being overweight or underweight, because both of those are body weight and body image issues,
Oh
the
yeah.
root is always emotional health. And I think we forget that the Lord is actually the great counselor also. I think we forget that that's a trait of his, that he is the
That's why
great counselor.
that's
And
why
that
in
when we
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead,
go
babe.
ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, there was a lag. So,
Oh,
yeah, no, but like, that's why in the counseling room, I'm not the great counselor. I have to wait on the Lord to say something before I
mhm.
speak it, right? And to your point, will you let the great counselor ask the questions, and will you stop hiding from him?
And you got to sit down and be quiet and
Yeah.
feel. And I say feel your feelings, and people hate that phrase, especially in the Christian world, but I use that because we're almost we I'm like,
Oh,
why are
yeah.
you afraid of feeling discomfort for 30 seconds? Because literally, scientifically, that's how long emotions last. 30 seconds. No one's fighting mad for more than about 30 seconds. No
Yeah.
one's like distraught for, I mean, of course, there are other certain situations where that's not true, but why won't you let yourself feel that and then take the next steps and pray about it? Why is it that you need to stop that from
And it's
happening?
because I can't control the direction that the Lord has taken this healing in.
Yep.
And so therefore it
Mm,
comes back to like control, submission, and rest is that like if I take this to the Lord, I don't know how far he'll take it. I don't know what he wants to cover up. I can't control the
yeah.
direction, how long, when, where. I remember the Lord, so I just want to share this right before. Um, as I went through my healing and I was going through the biblical counseling process. So all my healing happened on like the other side of getting my cycle back.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because I was just not in a mental state. So the Lord, that's why it's like it's still coming like 2 or 3 years later. And I was on my way. We were going to the so like I worked at a ministry at this time. I still do volunteer counseling for them. And every Monday is like they meet and we have like an amazing uh class where we actually explore scripture. We teach on it. We do, whatever. And so I had done my devotional. I was like reading. I asked the Lord a question about this, and I think it's just like something like your faithfulness is my salvation. And I was like, Lord, I get that, but what does that mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
your faithfulness, like I know you're faithful and I know you're in charge of salvation, but what does it mean that your faithfulness is my salvation? And I closed it. I went and got dressed. And then right as I was about to get up, like I could feel the Lord like be like, hey, we want to talk about this. Like we're gonna talk about, and I'm like, and like I could feel the heaviness, like the presence of the Lord. I'm like, right now, I'm about to be late. I was like, I'm about to go to Bible study, right? As I'm rushing off to go do a biblical thing, but not spending time with the Lord. And I was like, and then like it just got heavier and then I was like, all right, we're gonna deal with it. And sure enough, he took me back to that time where I said, you know, like, Lord, I don't even want to, like, am I grateful because this is a habit, or am I grateful because I actually am grateful to you? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And how I went to bed and I basically like turned and curled and turned, as if I was like mad and turning my back. And he had shown me like I was right there holding on to you, even though you didn't want to hold on to me. That is what it looks like, that my faithfulness is
Mm,
your salvation. And
yep.
I was crying, but that was something that I had to, he had like, yeah, like he had taken me back, be like, we're gonna bubble this one. Like this is the first one that's coming up. And so again, it's moments like that of not being too busy for the Lord for him to heal those areas. Like
Yep.
let the Lord heal when you feel it coming up. So feel the feelings. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Let them go through. And for a lot of my clients, it looks like, oh, I'm going to go do 50 million other things besides sit down. And I'd rather exercise than rest, because then I don't have to feel it if I'm exercising. But let me tell you, um, God will do it anyway. So, we're not really worried about that. But we're going to wrap this up. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm so glad you came on, Ashley. If you guys enjoyed this conversation, please leave a comment. Make sure you like and then share this video if it blessed you. Ashley, tell people where they can find you on Instagram, YouTube, your podcast, all of that.
Yes. So I'm at Ashley_Marie_Smith_. A lot of underscores. And I'm
Okay.
over at the HA Society and everything's connected there. And yeah, I would love to come back on doing this because you and I enjoy these conversations. They're so iron sharpening iron that it's just good brain food, soul food, spirit food. So yes.
Yes.
Um, anything else? Like we got so much to talk about.
I know. I'm like, okay, when's our next one? Let me think
I
about our
know,
next
I know.
topic.
We should do it
Uh,
monthly.
I know, totally. I actually am trying to think of like I need to figure out some other people to get on here. I've never done collabs, but now that I figured out how to do this whole like StreamYard thing,
Oh yeah.
I'm in it. All right, you guys, that's it for today's Faith Friday video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.